Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. It is officially May now, so I decided I would do an April reading wrap up. I read a total of 12 books in April, and so I'm going to tell y'all all about them. The first one is A Bride of Fallen Stars by Victoria McCombs. Honestly, this book kind of reminded me of the first episode of My Little Pony, you know, with like Nightmare Moon and stuff. It had two twin sisters, one controlled the night, one controlled the day, but it was the day one that got jealous and took over the night one's power. And she like released this unknown power that she didn't know that her sister carried. And so then her sister has to go down to the mortal world and try to save it. And it ended in a cliffhanger, and the second one's coming out next year in May or March, I think, and I'm so excited to read it. Victoria McCombs is one of the best authors, honestly. I've loved everything I've read by her, and I'm so excited. And the cover is so pretty. I did read it on my Kindle, so it was in black and white, but my friend bought the book, and it's just so pretty. Second book I read in April was Europa by James Ponti. It is the 7th City Spies book, and I thought it was going to be the last, but it ended in a cliffhanger. And I love middle grade mystery. Honestly, it's one of my favorite genres. And James Ponti's just like such a good writer. And so I was really excited for this book, and it definitely lived up to all my expectations. And it definitely is not the last one. They're ended in a cliffhanger, and I'm so excited for the next one. I don't know if there's a release day or date yet or not, because the 7th one like literally just came out. But I read it in 2 days, and it was like about there's usually like a theme to each of the books, and this one's like art museums and stuff, and I thought that was really cool. It was such a good book. I loved it. Next book I read is The Unbreakable Code by Jennifer Chambliss Bertman, and this is another middle grade fantasy. And it's the second book in the book Scavenger series. And I read the first one a few years ago, actually. And I never got to reading this one. And I actually found it at Half Price Books a few months ago and bought it. And I just now got to reading it. And I read this in 1 day. I loved it so much. It was a 5-star. It is about the Unbreakable Code, which is like a decades old mystery in this book, of course. And they have to solve it, and there's tons of codes and stuff, and once you get to the end, you're like, I could have figured that out. How didn't I? And I love books like that, and I just loved it so much. Definite 5-star. Next is a book that I absolutely loved. It was When the Day Comes by Gabrielle Meyer, and this is an adult Christian fiction, but it is clean. And my mom read this before me, and she kind of told me the plot, so it kind of spoiled it. That's why I think I didn't like it as much as I thought it would. This is definitely my least favorite in the series, but I think it's just because of that. But this is the first one, and it's about this girl named Libby, and she lives in 2 time periods, like in the one is in the 1700s and one is in the 1900s, I think. She goes back and forth between the times. Like when she goes to sleep in one, she wakes up in the other, and she has to keep a secret that she's a time crosser, and she has to be careful not to talk about the future because she could alter the future, and if she did do that, she would automatically die in that world or in that life and be stuck in the other one forever. And then on her 21st birthday, she has to choose which life she wants to live in forever. And this book, even though I knew what the plot twist was going to be, it still took me by surprise. It was so good. I 100% recommend this book, like 100. It's like my new favorite series. Next, I read the second book in that series, In This Moment by Gabrielle Meyer, and I love this one more than the first one. It was so good, and this girl, another time crosser, has 3 time periods. One in 2001, one in the 1800s, and one in the 1600s. And she had until she was 25 to pick a path, but I thought this was really interesting because she had the 3 paths. Next, I read The Alcatraz Escape by Jennifer Chambliss Bertman, the 3rd book in the book Scavenger series, and it's also the final one. And it was also my favorite one. there was this game they put on, and it was in this old prison, which is like in a boat thing, and they're trying to figure out, like, there was like this, they had to figure out what they didn't even know what they're looking for. They're just like clues, and then like whatever your conclusion is, tell us and we'll tell you if it's right and stuff. And I loved it so much, and I liked the ending. I thought it was cool. It was a 4-star. I read For a Lifetime by Gabrielle Meyer, which is the 3rd book in the Timeless series, and this one was even better than the second one. It was about, they were twin sisters, and they both had the same paths, and they had until they were 25 to figure out which path they wanted to stay in. And one was when they first started having airplanes, and one of them was a pilot, and then the other time period was the same witch trials, and I thought those time periods were really, really interesting, and I didn't expect the ending to that one either. It was so crazy. I think it's safe to say that all of the Timeless series is going to be 5 stars. Next, I read The Aberration of Eden Pruitt. It's the 2nd book in the Eden Pruitt series, and this one took me a while to finish. I started it a while ago, and I just finished it not too long ago, but it was just harder to get into for me because I've been getting used to reading in 1st person, and that one's in 3rd person. But I really like the story and it being dystopian and stuff. It was a 4-star. After that, we have Unraveling by Sara. This is the sequel of a series, and I really liked this. I read it in 2 days, I think. It's about this girl. I don't really know how to explain it without spoiling the first one, but I really loved it, and it was a 4-star. Next, we have North or Be Eaten by Peterson. It's the 2nd book in the Wingfeather saga. I give it a 3-star because the story was okay, but it was kind of boring to me. It took me a while to read it. I hope the books pick up after this because I've heard so much good things about it. It was really hard to get through the first one, and then this one was not quite as hard, but it was still kind of boring. Next, we have The Unselected Journals of M.M. Lyon, Volume 7. And I really like this. There's some pretty funny bits. I love M.M. Lyon. This one was definitely a 5. Every single one of the books in that series has been a 5. And I'm really excited to read the 8th one. And then the 9th one is supposed to come out later this year, but there's not a release date yet. But it's about this girl named Emma, and she lives in the 1800s, and she has a really crazy family and friends. And it's just a really funny book. I loved it so much. Last but not least, we have Across the Ages by Gabrielle Meyer. This was the 4th book in the Timeless series, and I loved it so much. I read it in one night. Like, I started at 10 o'clock at night and finished it at 2 in the morning. It was so good. It was, one of her time periods was kind of boring. Nothing really happened in it. But then her other one, her mom is missing, and she's never met her mom, and so she decides to go and find her. So she gets on this pirate ship, and she lives with the pirates for a while, and there was like a whole mystery to her finding her mom and stuff, and I just loved it so much, and of course, it was a 5-star. So if you enjoyed this video or any of the books I mentioned, please like and subscribe to come back for more. Bye!